Let me tell you something strange, something that might sound uncomfortable at first, but if you truly listen, really listen, it may just change your life. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that almost everything you've been pursuing, every goal, every pleasure, every success, is a distraction. Not necessarily from your purpose, but from yourself. What if the root of your suffering, your anxiety, your restlessness, isn't out there in the world, but in the very structure of your desires? This is where Schopenhauer begins, not with optimism, not with hope, but with a brutal, raw, almost terrifying clarity.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Schopenhauer believed that the world we live in, the one we see, touch, navigate daily, is not the ultimate reality. It's a representation, a veil, and behind that veil is something he called will. Not your personal will, not free will, but an unconscious, blind and endless force that drives everything in existence. This will is always pushing, always hungering. You're never satisfied. You feel it every time you crave something new, every time you achieve something and immediately want more. Have you ever noticed that? That the moment you get what you thought would finally make you happy, a new desire appears almost instantly. What if that cycle never ends? Now pause. Ask yourself, when was the last time you were truly content? Not excited, not distracted, not entertained, but deeply, silently, peacefully content. If Schopenhauer is right, then contentment is not a natural state for humans. In fact, it's alien to us. Because if will is always pushing us forward, then peace is rebellion. Stillness is revolution. And that's the silent power he offers us, not in dominating the world, but in stepping back from it. Here's the twist. Schopenhauer wasn't just a pessimist. He was a liberator. He wanted to free us from this endless cycle of wanting, getting, and wanting again. But freedom doesn't come from indulging every desire. It comes from seeing desire for what it is, a trick, a mirage. We chase things because we believe they will fulfill us, but even the most ecstatic moments fade. Pleasure is fleeting, and pain is persistent. So, what if the way to transform your life isn't to get more, but to want less? Think about your goals right now. Think about what you're chasing. Money, love, approval, success. Now ask yourself, are these things making you free, or are they keeping you trapped? You may be pouring your entire life into a script you didn't write, a race you didn't choose, a hunger that doesn't end. Schopenhauer's silent power begins when you stop running. When you sit with yourself, in the quiet, and realize that nothing external will ever complete you. This isn't about giving up, it's about waking up. It's about looking at life with eyes that see through the illusion. Schopenhauer admired the wisdom of the East Buddhism, Vedanta, the idea that suffering comes from attachment, from clinging. He said that the way out is through asceticism, contemplation, and art. But yes, art, because in moments of true aesthetic experience, when you lose yourself in beauty, in music, in nature, you forget your ego. You forget your desires. You become, briefly, free. Have you ever stared at a sunset and felt a silence inside you? A quiet awe that had no need to speak, no need to move. That's what Schopenhauer meant. That's the taste of liberation. In that moment, you are not wanting, not fearing, not chasing. You are just being. That is the power hidden in silence. That is the transformation waiting behind every distraction. But we resist this. Why? Because silence is scary. Stillness forces us to face the truth of ourselves, the emptiness we try so hard to fill, and the pain we bury under noise. But what if that emptiness isn't a flaw but a doorway? What if silence isn't loneliness but clarity? We spend years trying to fix the outer world, thinking that if we just tweak this or get that, we'll finally feel okay. But Schopenhauer says, start with the inner world. Start with your relationship to desire itself. Let's go deeper. Schopenhauer believed that compassion is the highest moral value, but not because it's a virtue. Because when you truly understand that everyone else is driven by the same restless will, the same suffering, the same hunger, you can't help but feel compassion. You see yourself in others. Their pain becomes your pain. Their striving becomes familiar. And in that recognition, something quiet happens. A softening, a surrender, a kind of love that doesn't need reward. Now imagine a life where you see through the illusions of ego, but where you no longer need to prove anything, where you live not to dominate or acquire, but to understand, to feel, to witness. That's the transformation Schopenhauer offers. Not a bigger, louder life, but a deeper, quieter one. A life where you are no longer a puppet of your own cravings. A life where you can stand still in the storm of existence and say, I see you, but you don't own me. It sounds radical because it is. It's the opposite of everything society teaches us. Society says, hustle harder, get more, become someone. Schopenhauer says, let go, step back, watch your own mind, watch the game being played, and then decide if you still want to play. He's not asking you to withdraw from life. He's asking you to wake up within it, to stop being hypnotized by your own desires, to see them as passing clouds, not permanent truths. So how do we begin? We begin with awareness, with noticing. The next time you feel a craving, pause. Don't act on it immediately, just observe it. Where does it come from? What does it promise? And what happens when you don't feed it? You'll notice something strange. The desire eventually fades, and something else arises, peace. That peace is not weak, it's powerful, because in that moment you are free. We also begin through contemplation. Schopenhauer was a master of solitude, but not loneliness, solitude. He believed that only in silence can we hear the truth. But we fill our days with noise, notifications, conversations, entertainment, because we're afraid of that silence. What would happen if you turned everything off for a day? No phone, no music, no distractions. It's just you and your thoughts. Could you handle it? Or would the silence reveal something you've been avoiding? This is why most people never transform. Because transformation isn't glamorous. It's not a highlight reel. It's not sexy. It's hard. It's raw. It's painful. But it's real, and once you go through it, you can never go back. You begin to see things as they are. You begin to love differently, think differently, live differently. Not because someone told you to, but because you've tasted the truth. And once you've tasted truth, illusion loses its grip. Schopenhauer's silent power is the power of detachment, not from life, but from illusion. It's the ability to live in this world without being consumed by it, to walk through the chaos with a calm heart, to feel desire without being enslaved by it, to feel pain without being broken by it. That's real strength. That's inner freedom. That's the kind of transformation no one can give you and no one can take away. But here's the catch. You have to want it, truly want it. Most people say they want peace, but they're addicted to drama, addicted to stimulation, addicted to the chase. If you want Schopenhauer's power, you have to choose silence over noise, depth over surface, truth over comfort. And that's not easy, but it's worth it. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to be untouched by praise or criticism? To not rise and fall with every opinion, every success, every failure? That's not apathy, that's liberation. That's what happens when you no longer measure your worth by external things. When you know who you are beneath all the roles, all the masks, that's when you become unshakable. That's when life stops being a battle and starts being a dance. Now imagine a world where more people lived like this, where more people stepped out of the illusion, where more people chose awareness over reaction, passion over competition, silence over noise. What kind of world would that be? Could we even recognize it? This is not just about philosophy. This is about your life, your mind, your freedom. The power is already in you. Schopenhauer didn't invent it, he just pointed to it. The question is, are you ready to see? Let's go even deeper now, because if you've made it this far, you're not just curious. You're searching. Maybe you've already tasted the bitterness of chasing things that don't satisfy. Maybe you've felt that haunting emptiness after achieving something you thought would complete you. Maybe you've looked around at a world obsessed with speed, noise, and validation and silently whispered to yourself, there has to be more than this. And you're right, there is. But it's not out there. It's within you. And Schopenhauer's philosophy is a map, a mirror, and a challenge. Ask yourself this: what if everything you're afraid to face is the key to your freedom? What if the very things you avoid, silence, solitude, stillness, are not your enemies, but your teachers? Schopenhauer didn't run from these things. He embraced them. He lived alone, walked for hours in nature, read deeply, and wrote with the intensity of someone who saw through the world's illusions. He wasn't trying to escape life, he was trying to penetrate it, to see its core. And what he found was this: life is suffering, but that suffering can be understood, and through understanding, transcended. Don't misunderstand him. When Schopenhauer said life is suffering, he wasn't being dramatic. He was being honest. He saw that all living beings are driven by a restless force, the will to survive, to reproduce, to dominate, to consume. And that force, while necessary, also guarantees conflict, frustration, and pain. That you want something? You suffer until you get it. You get it. You suffer from the fear of losing it, or from realizing it didn't fulfill you. You lose it. You suffer again. It's a loop, and you're in it. We all are. But what happens when you see the loop for what it is? What happens when you stop identifying with your desires and start witnessing them? That's when the transformation begins. That's when the silent power emerges. Because silence, in Schopenhauer's world, is not just the absence of noise. It's the presence of awareness. It's the space where the will loses its grip. It's the moment you step outside the machinery of craving and ask, who am I without all of this? This is what most people never dare to ask, but because the answer shakes the foundation of their identity. If you are not your desires, not your goals, not your status, then who are you? This question is not just philosophical, it's existential. It's spiritual, and it's terrifying, but also liberating. Because in that unknown space, in that silence, lies the doorway to your truest self, not the self that performs, not the self that pleases, but the self that simply is. Let's not romanticize this. It's not easy to detach from desire. It's not easy to sit in silence and face your inner chaos. But here's the truth. Every great transformation begins with discomfort. Every awakening starts with disillusionment. When you finally admit that the things you were chasing are not enough, that's when the real journey begins. And Schopenhauer doesn't offer a quick fix. He offers a radical reorientation. He says, stop climbing the mountain of desire. Turn inward, go still, and listen. What do you hear in that stillness? Maybe fear, maybe longing, maybe nothing. But keep listening. Eventually you begin to hear something else, a deeper intelligence, a quiet knowing, a presence that is not trying to get anywhere, be anyone, or prove anything. But that's your essence. That's the part of you untouched by the will. And the more you connect with it, the more peace you feel, not because life stops being painful, but because you stop being enslaved by it. Now let's talk about something Schopenhauer rarely gets credit for: his love of beauty. Yes, he believed life was suffering. But he also believed that in moments of beauty, especially through music, we are lifted out of ourselves. We are temporarily freed from the will. Why music? Because music, he said, is not a representation of the world, it is the expression of the will itself, purified. It bypasses thought and touches something primal, something universal. But have you ever cried from a song? Felt joy or sorrow you couldn't explain? That's the will speaking to itself. That's you touching the infinite. This is why art, for Schopenhauer, is sacred. In great art, we step outside our ego and see the world not as something to use, but as something to behold. We become witnesses instead of consumers. And in that witnessing, we remember who we are beyond the game. This is why he saw artists, philosophers, and sages as the highest types of human beings, not because they escape life, but because they see through it. They live in the world, but not of it. So here's a question. When was the last time you allowed yourself to really see something? Not analyze it, not label it, just see it. A tree, a face, a piece of music, a moment of silence. Can you look at something without wanting it to be different? Can you let it be what it is without trying to change it? That's the beginning of wisdom. That's the beginning of peace. Now let's bring this home. What does all this mean for you right now in your daily life? It means that every moment is an opportunity to step out of the illusion. Every desire is a teacher. Every frustration is a mirror. When you feel anger or craving or fear, don't run. Don't suppress. Watch. Observe. Ask, what is this showing me about where I'm still attached, where I'm still asleep? This is not about judging yourself. It's about becoming conscious. And in that consciousness, transformation happens. You don't have to move to the mountains. You don't have to renounce everything, but you just have to shift your attention inward. You have to be willing to feel discomfort without reacting, and to sit with pain without fleeing, to enjoy pleasure without clinging. That's the middle path. That's mastery. That's Schopenhauer's silent power, not control over the world, but release from its grip. And yes, the world will try to pull you back. It will tell you that you're missing out, that you need more, that you're falling behind. But here's the secret. The more you let go, the more you gain. Not in possessions, but in presence. not in status, but in stillness. And that stillness is magnetic. It changes how people see you, how opportunities find you, how life unfolds around you. Because you're no longer chasing, you're attracting without trying. Can you imagine what it would feel like to be rooted in yourself, no matter what happens? To remain calm in chaos, clear in confusion, soft in conflict? That's not fantasy. That's the fruit of philosophy. That's the result of deep, honest, inner work. And it's available to you right now if you're willing to do the hardest thing of all, nothing. Just be, just observe, just listen. Schopenhauer's path is not for the faint of heart. It requires courage. Not the courage to fight, but the courage to surrender, to stop pretending, to stop running, to stop needing. And in that surrender, something extraordinary happens. You begin to feel whole, not because everything is perfect, but because you no longer need it to be. Let me ask you something. What would your life look like if you no longer needed anything from it? If you could love without clinging, work without obsessing, live without fear? That's not apathy. That's freedom. That's power. That's the silent, invisible strength of someone who has faced the will and smiled. Someone who has seen the machinery of desire and stepped off the ride. This is what Schopenhauer meant when he spoke of the sage. The sage is not above life. The sage is in life, but free from its grip. But the sage sees through the illusion, but still participates with compassion, with grace, with depth. The sage has suffered deeply, but in that suffering found wisdom. And that wisdom is not loud. It doesn't need to prove itself. It just is, like the moon in the night sky, silent, present, radiant. You can be that. That's not a dream. That's your nature. Beneath the noise, the striving, the story, you are already free. You are already whole. You are not the will. You are the witness. And once you see that, truly see it, you'll never be the same again.